Hello and welcome to Inspired Connections, where we share wisdom one conversation at a time. Today's featured guest is literally a walking well of wisdom and a practitioner of vibrational healing. Owner of Second Nature Healing LLC, located in Portland, Oregon, Rosemary Levesque is a Reiki master teacher, a shamanic healer, a licensed spiritual healer, a certified vibrational sound master teacher, and a medicinal aromatherapist. Rosemary has been actively teaching and healing internationally since 2006 and holds a Bachelor of Science degree in biology and secondary education. Rosemary artfully weaves together ancient wisdom to activate natural healing and the release of trauma and stress and the clearing, grounding, and renewal for animals and their humans. Please welcome our featured guest, Rosemary Levesque. Hi,
Yay!
Rosemary.
Yay! Hello, hello,
So,
hello.
so excited to have you on and share this moment with you, this well of wisdom.
Thank you. And can I comment on your introductory music just briefly?
Yes,
Did
absolutely.
you did you feel the heartbeat in that? There's a heartbeat in the background. Was that
It
intentional, Jane?
it is, and it always makes me just smile, and it gets me pepped up, ready to go for the show.
Yes. So awareness, of course, is where we begin. And, I felt that in my heart. And as I was looking at the images going around, I saw hexagons of light all over the place. Boy, you nailed it. This is
Mm.
so good.
And equally, what was amazing is I'm seeing you in the green room, if you will, and you were kind of moving, and in my head I thought that's exactly the point, and the that bringing about this energy and so forth, this joy. So here
Yes.
we are. So let's jump in. I This is so important. So we're going to begin the conversation here. Second Nature Healing, which is of course your company. Believe in your power to heal. I'd love for you to share, speak to that powerful
Thank
statement.
you. Yes. Well, I start with that because I didn't believe in it a long time ago. My mother had a terrible diagnosis when I was just in my 20s, and she gave up her power to the medical community to do the surgery and chemo and radiation and all of that. And I was living in South Korea at the time, so I, ran home to be with her during that journey. And I witnessed her giving up her power, praying, hoping, really praying, had the Bible. And
Mm,
I had the rosary. We were doing it. We were pulling out all the stops for that kind of belief. But at the same time, we had the belief, or we were trying to have the belief, um, there was misery. And she went down and down and down. And I will never forget, James. Oh my gosh, I'm starting to tear up. I'll never forget the conversation we had one day, because as a biologist, she was hoping for some scientific evidence, scientific background. She asked me, Rosemary, can the liver heal? And I said, I don't know. Because at that time, I
mm,
was 26, I was teaching biology overseas. And she asked me a question I should have known, but I didn't know. Can the liver heal? And I said, I don't know. And
mm.
then she said, I don't want any more chemo. And that is the moment that I look back on now and realize that's when she took back her power.
Mm.
When she said, I don't want any more of that, I'd rather do this. Of course, this was just being at the moment. That's the best we could
Right.
do at the, but she wasn't, accessing the poison and the all those things anymore because she knew it hurt her. And she got better to a point where we could go out to dinner and we could enjoy a movie and we could be without all that other intervention. And now I didn't see it then because I was too entrenched in it, but I see now that's when she took back her power. And so this is actually the foundation of my business, Second Nature Healing, that healing is second nature. It should be easy. It should be fun. It should be natural. And everything we do to support the body's natural wisdom to heal should be second nature.
And it is in fact that belief in your power to heal. I mean, it's assembling all of the components, all the pieces, and
Yes.
ultimately listening to yourself. Not to the ego mind chatter, the fear or something that might be involved in that moment, but what our knowing, our soul, our intimate knowing of we have a power to heal ourselves. And this goes along with a second powerful statement that you have as well. The journey begins with your decision. This is what you just spoke about with your mother.
Mm.
Like, the journey begins with your decision, with your choices. How is this affecting your
Yeah.
work with clients?
Ooh. Well, a decision, a choice means that even if you don't make a choice or don't make a decision, that's a decision too. And so people can be afraid of making a decision and not realizing that that's also their choice. They
That's a
can
decision,
say, it is a decision.
right?
And people always think, well, if I decide to do this, that's great. If I decide not to do this, then, they're going to wait for something else. But everything's a decision. So we come back to the point of, well, you begin with a decision. Okay, well, that's the beginning of your journey. I don't know if you know, I'm wearing labradorite here.
Mm,
And labradorite is a very important stone for me. It is one of navigation, of
mm.
finding your way, of being guided. Because of the blues in there, somebody might say, oh, throat chakra, being able to speak your truth. No, I go with what the crystal tells me. What the crystal tells me is, if you're a ship lost out on the ocean, don't worry, the stars will guide you. You will be guided. You will be safe. You will be guided. You'll be able to navigate through things. And so that's where we come back to our center being in making a decision. Are you making a decision from thinking, from, weighing pros and cons, making a list? The thinking brain is a very powerful thing. And yet we
Yes,
have so much more power in our intuition, in our connection to the divine. That's where our power comes from.
absolutely.
Yes.
That is soul source connection. That is the root of all. And it speaks to, you're speaking to something about the crystal and your necklace and everything. So that crystals are an eternal ancient form of healing. But
Yes.
again, in modern day societies and so forth, we look at them in a sense as pretty gems, or we wear them as jewels, but many people don't necessarily remember or recognize their healing power.
That's true. And yet there is something innate that when you let go of, again, the thinking brain and just experience, even if your experience is, oh, that's a pretty jewel, that's a
Mm,
pretty color, you're resonating with the vibration of the
true.
stone. And that's on, okay, level one.
Correct.
It's
Exactly. Exactly.
level one. Oh, I like you.
Right.
Can I come
Oh,
home? Mhm. Yeah, unfortunately, lots of crystals want to come home with me. It's really hard not to bring more into my fold.
well, and that's my point. There was a shop in Mount Shasta filled with crystals. I mean, just beautiful. And there was one, and I felt it from the front door, and it just pulled me all the way back. And it was like, his name is Wilson, and and it's the most beautiful adruzi, um, the most beautiful crystal and powerful beyond words. And so it's that interaction that when we listen, when we interact with crystals, just as one form of healing, the the magnitude, and of course it speaks to the computer chips and all of these different things in modern technology that again most people are unaware of. they
Mhm.
don't they don't recognize or realize the magnitude of that um, gift.
Yes. Can I comment on your druzy?
Absolutely, absolutely.
So your druzy is full of, it's like children. The joy and laughter of children. It's full of joy. It's full of enthusiasm and connection on that primal level of, here I am. I am born to be here and live in joy. And so no wonder you were attracted to that druzy.
Just brought it
Yeah.
straight through, and just to
Yeah.
welcome Olivia and to welcome Alicia. And Olivia was saying, I am right there with you on what you just said. So we are audience
Mhm.
concurring and so forth. Let's take a step back. Let's go, because we're going to talk about three major components: imprinting and initiation, integration, this connected, disconnected, and then how that brings about wisdom, harmony, and alignment. So I want to take you back for a second. Let's go to imprinting and initiation, where you're in Hawaii, and just speak from your personal story about that.
Mm. I didn't have a choice. I was born there. And only lived there for 6 months. Back at that time, my father was in the Navy, and I was born in a military hospital. Um, my mother was not allowed to travel for 6 months. Therefore, she got to enjoy Hawaii for 6 months. But she told me about the trade winds, and she told me about the flowers that were around me, and the breeze, and the uh, what she was talking about was, and she didn't know, was initiation. And so I was being imprinted on the island of Hawaii. And imagine this now, an island born of volcanoes, surrounded by water. And so being imprinted with that energy of creative forces coming out of the center of the earth and surrounded by the vast majority of ocean. We're ocean water, we are salt water and minerals. That's who we are. That's
Mm,
our stuff. Stardust and all the elements of our
yes.
mother earth, mother Gaia. And so being imprinted with that, I felt an instant connection when I returned to Hawaii. It was like, oh, I'm home. I
Mm,
used to stop in Hawaii back and forth on my way from living in South Korea years ago. We'd make a side swing into Hawaii, and it was like, ah, I feel at home here. I know this smell. Even though I was just a tiny infant and I didn't know anything in my thinking brain, I resonated with the feeling of it. And so
mm,
we are imprinted always. Everybody is imprinted on where they were born and where they were conceived, and where they grew up. So I grew up in New Hampshire, and now at that time I was being imprinted with wintergreen and cedar and balsam fir, and all the plant medicines that I became familiar with, that I grew
mm,
up with. What my grandmother brought with her from the old, we called it the old country, what she brought with her, her talents and gifts as a farmer, and connecting to the land. And I just remember her ease with being out there in the garden and just kind of picking the bugs, potato bugs off the potatoes. It's just like, oh, this is easy. This is natural to her. Her connection to nature. She
mm,
knew what to do. And so imprinting, I don't think people usually think about this. So I'd like everybody to
mm,
just think about, where were you born? What do you think was in your environment? Here, you get to think a little bit. What do you think was in your environment? And now, what do you resonate with from being in that environment? Do you enjoy certain fragrances more than others? Do you love desert or forest or ocean? What's your preference? I'm an ocean girl. I love the ocean. Gee, no wonder, right? I was imprinted.
well, and it speaks to, Rosemary, it speaks to so much about, astrocartography. and where the soul, everything is purposeful. We speak a lot in Weekly Wisdom and Insights about everything is purposeful, and how, so from an astrological standpoint, and where are we being imprinted in this initiation, and how that was purposefully chosen by the soul, and it amplifies and magnifies our experience. And yet people, again, coming back to your point, people don't stop to recognize, oh, it's purposeful that I was born in Hawaii. It, quote unquote, I didn't have a choice, but yet the soul did. The soul knew. So the
Exactly.
human can say, and then to your point, with the East Coast to the West Coast, and these things that speak to us that are nature, natural, organic, they're of the soul, resonating, vibrating to bring out and enhance our experience, our greatness.
Absolutely. And just I want to bathe in that for a minute because that feels so good to think about that. When I go to Sedona, I have business in Sedona, so I go there a couple times a year. And I said to somebody one time, I could never live here. And it was almost like they were insulted. Like, what do you mean? You
I mean,
can't live here.
hello, the holy grail of Arizona. Hello.
Exactly. And I said, because it's too far away from the ocean. And it was like, oh, okay. Then they understood, I don't want to be landlocked. It doesn't
Right.
feel good to me.
Right. It doesn't feel natural. It doesn't feel like it nourishes your soul.
Exactly.
And that is something that people do, being from California, Los Angeles, San Diego, being at the ocean all the time. There is an absolute truth to, oh no, I feel landlocked. I don't know how to get to the airport from somewhere else. It's not this. It's so silly. And yet it's anchoring, it's grounding, and it's so a part of your essence, your nature. It
Yes.
nourishes you.
Your second nature. And
Yeah,
that's where people have to go. They have to remember who they are. They have to remember, and the remembering doesn't come from the thinking necessarily. It has to come from the heart.
comes
It
from the
has to
knowing.
come from intuitive knowing. Yes.
And that's what I love about the name of your company, Second Nature. All of these things are second nature to us. To what degree are we listening? Are we connecting? It moves us into integration. Let me just bring up that beautiful slide of integration. Are
Hmm.
we connected or disconnected? And to what degree?
Mm,
And again, that the journey begins with your decision. So with our
yes.
choices. So speak to integration, connected, disconnected.
Hmm. I believe it took me a long time to figure this out, consciously figure it out, because as a teacher, I like to figure things out. I like knowledge and learning. However, noticing became a big part of how to get there. So, how do people feel if they're stuck indoors all the time? How did people feel during the pandemic when they said, no, don't go outside?
Mm,
Don't go there. It was a chop, right? It was a disconnect, a deliberate disconnect. And what happened when everybody got disconnected? They found a way to connect, right? They
right.
they
It
found a
created
way.
new avenues, correct? Right. Exactly. It created what we're
Yeah.
doing right now. It created a new avenue.
Hmm.
And we see this, Rosemary, not to just to digress for a second. Look at how even mainstream media, celebrities, entertainment, everyone shifted to this whole new medium. Zoom took off like crazy. This whole
Hmm.
interaction of what we're doing right now, and it brought people into celebrities. We always had a very polished look. Well, all of a sudden it became very organic and intimate
Yeah.
and natural. Integration,
Yes.
connected and disconnected. Go on.
Mhm. Yeah, that was the biggest one, that's the most recent. However, the sneaky one that has been catching up to us and enveloping us for a long, long time is electronics, wiring in our walls, Wi-Fi, cell phones, holding it up to your head, All this electronic stuff is a very big disconnector. And boy, sleeping on a spring mattress, don't do that. Heating pad with, plugging something in and putting something plugged in on your body, don't do that either. Because the more you bring that kind of energy into you, it disconnects you from the natural energy of the earth. So go outside, hug a tree. In fact, lay down on the ground, put your feet up
Yes.
on the tree and stick them right on that tree so that you can actually get grounded.
Well,
And
and look, just Rosemary, and look at how many, you growing up, me growing up, we're of a generation, we're old enough to be of a generation where it was kids go outside and play.
yes,
And that's what we did. We went outside and we hugged the trees and we swang from the trees and we put our feet in the grass and, and interacted with the water and made mud puddles. And you were
yes,
interacting with nature, with Mother Earth. And now,
absolutely.
of course, it's this wonderful little device we hold in our hands, which is wonderful in one aspect. And
Hmm.
yet we become so disconnected in another.
That's right. So, of course, moderation, right? We
Right,
love our
absolutely.
conveniences, but you have to get outside. You have to eat raw foods. You have to eat whole foods, drink water, stay away from the sugars, the addictions, those things that lower your vibration, because really all of this is about vibration. When I talk about how to get connected, it's becoming aware of the vibrations that you have in your body, what is lowering your vibration and what will raise your vibration. And so lowering your vibration, let's put a few things in that category. Number one, heavy metals and toxicity. Oh, huge. Another one, processed foods. That's going to lower your vibration. All the additives that are in there, and sugars, and too much salt, too much fat, all the too
The
muches,
dyes, yeah, exactly. Artificial
everything.
colorings, yes.
Well, and just the processing itself takes the
Right.
vitality, takes the life out of. I mean, I remember as a kid pulling a tomato off the tomato bush, and I did give it a rinse sometimes, and just taking a chomp out of that big juicy tomato. Oh my God, there's nothing like it. Or
Hmm.
pulling an apple off the tree, eating around the worms because we never sprayed anything. And
Right.
that's what you did. You ate that stuff.
Right.
And everybody had their own garden.
Right. The farm to
You know,
table,
yes.
that whole organic farms and how it went from literally the ground to the table and so forth. And so, yes, modern day, supermarkets and, super centers and everything, wonderful. Okay.
Yes. Okay. And
And, and, this farm to table, the organics of it, and not even just organics, just, well, organics in the sense that it's natural, that it's,
mhm,
to your point, I pulled it off the plant and I took a bite.
yes.
It reminds me of Europe a lot. That concept reminds me of Europe
Hmm.
because there is this more, go to Tuscany, go to France, go to many of these and countries, and you walk about and it's like it's literally that, and they're buying things every couple of days. It's not
Yes.
about going to the store and loading up the trunk with 2 weeks or a month's worth of groceries. It's two
Right.
days.
That's right.
It's a very
Yep.
different concept of living.
Yes, it is. And there are many pesticides that are allowed here in the United States that are not allowed in Europe. They're not allowing GMOs in Europe. And so, I don't want to get too far off track here, but it is the core of healing is what do you have in your body that doesn't belong? Get rid of it and bring in the vibrations that you want to bring in. And so this conversation about integration is about actually both. Get rid of the things that don't serve you, bring in the vibrations that do serve you, and we can talk about how to do that. But the point of being integrated, connected or disconnected, just take a step back and notice what you notice. And this is what I tell my students all the time: notice what you notice. How do you feel when you are outside? Most people feel uplifted. Most people feel rejuvenated, breathing
Yes.
fresh air, being in the sunlight, or even in the rain. The rain is anointing you. The sun is anointing you.
And to listen, right? I mean, it's not just notice what you know, notice what you notice, but then to follow through, to be proactive with it. Because again, if we know, to Olivia's point, she's talking about why was I born in Texas and I've never felt like I belonged there, and yet I felt really good in California. There's an aspect here of then, well, then make a life change. Listen,
Hmm. Hmm.
and then be proactive. Because again, if we are staying stuck or residing or doing something that we know isn't good for us, it's it's counterintuitive to that. The journey begins with your choice, with your decision. Then choose something else.
Yes.
Choose to integrate and connect.
Yes. You don't have to like where you were born.
Right, no,
You don't
yeah.
have,
But
you were
recognize that
just
it's
imprinted.
purposeful.
Yes, absolutely. You're
It's
imprinted.
you're imprinted, there's something about it. Your soul chose it, and there's something there. And this is true, Rosemary, of every, when you look back at every single thing we are all many incarnations within the incarnation. So the jobs we've had, all these different things, the stages in our life. What's fascinating is when you recognize that everything is interconnected, interwoven, everything is purposeful. In the moment, we may not recognize that. We may think, why was I born here? Why am I doing this or that? Whatever. And only in, I guess, hindsight, we look back at our lives as we build more seniority. We come into this place of realization and understanding. It may be 20 years later. Oh, that job or that person or was integrated,
Yeah.
is
Yes.
interwoven, initiated, left an imprint.
Yes.
And so when we allow, it amplifies. We get better at honing our skills.
Hmm. Can I offer another word for disconnected? Kind of a
Absolutely.
next denial. If you are disconnected from something, it could be a choice to be disconnected from it. Oh, I don't want to go there. I don't want to do that. Well, then you're separating yourself on purpose. And maybe there's a denial there. What is there for you that you could explore and then open the door for integration if that's your choice? And denial can be a choice too. That's okay. But it could be, okay, I don't want to do that now. I'm not ready for that now. And that's fine too.
And yet be open, absolutely, and yet be open to continue to evolve, expand, grow. Because again,
Yes.
the only thing denial is going to be something about fear, dislike. I mean, listen to your intuition, your soul source connection, your knowing.
Hmm.
However, to Rosemary's point as well, and when we say, well, I don't want to do that now, I love that qualifier. Add now, because it brings about that you're open to what may unfold, and
Hmm.
and allowing our human to catch up with our knowing, our soul.
Hmm. Well, to that point, I had a client not long ago who said to me, and this it's just a phone session. As soon as we set our intentions in our safe and sacred place, she just wanted to know why she felt stuck. A lot of people feel stuck. They can relate to that feeling. Oh, I can't move forward. I can't grow. I feel stuck. And I told her the reason, and boy, the tears started flowing. She recognized it, but she didn't want to face it. She wasn't ready to face it in the moments prior to our working together. But I gave her an easy way, a guide to work with, and she was able to transcend that moment, to transcend that fear that was holding her back. And so connecting, sometimes people can't see it for themselves. They can be highly intuitive, they can be healers themselves, but it might take another person to say, oh, well, this is what's going on. What do you think of that? Oh, then the tears, right?
Well,
And then you know you hit it.
and that beautiful statement of when you're ready, the teacher appears. And
Yes.
there you were. There you are. I mean, this is why
Mhm.
you're this walking well of wisdom. And Rosemary and I met each other back in 2019 in Sedona, Arizona, at the Soul Treat retreat put on by the Wellness Universe. And it was one of these, and I want to speak to, I'm integrating this into vibrational healing and the actual, to explain to people what that is. What is vibrational healing? And it's part of what I attended with you, that you taught, that you presented at the Soul Treat in Sedona.
Mm. Gosh, I loved that event. It was several days and lots of people who were practitioners as well as seekers. What I presented was a sound healing modality with custom tuning forks that were brought to me, brought to me in my funnel. Because
Yes,
this is not us. And I've heard you say this before, James. It's not me. It's the
correct.
information that I'm allowing through me because I am the hollow bone. I have cleared out all of the stuff, quote unquote stuff, in order to be the hollow bone, in order to be able to receive. So I've cleared out the toxins, I've cleared out a lot of the negative stuff, the low vibrational stuff, in order to be able to receive the high vibrational stuff. And so in this presentation, I was working just with a very simple protocol with a few tuning forks that are now a part of my medicine wheel. Um, Integration. Again, everything's integrated. So vibrational healing is not just what you hear, auditory. It could be the birds in the trees, the whispers in your dreams, the tuning forks and singing bowls and gongs, music that you love to listen to. That's all the auditory stuff. But there's the extra sensory stuff that you hear inside, that you hear in your heart, you feel in your heart. And so I like to encourage people to access all of their senses, the hear, see, smell, taste, know, all of those things on the outer level, but also on the inner level. Can you smell frankincense even when you're not holding frankincense? Can you
Yes,
hear? Yes, it's amazing. Oh my God. So here's the point of initiation. Can I elaborate on that,
absolutely.
James?
Yes, please. We are going with the flow,
So,
Rosemary.
okay, I remember one time I was in a yoga class, just feeling the vibe, being moving your body, by the way, is a really good way of getting out of your head and into your heart, moving your body, yoga poses, dancing, even lifting weights and then laying down. It's really phenomenal how you can activate all of these things and then get into your heart center very quickly. So I remember being in that meditative yoga pose and I could smell roses and
Mm.
I'm going looking around like who's wearing roses. Nobody's wearing roses, but because I'm initiated into the vibration of roses, and there's an association of roses with higher divine energies,
Yes.
Kuan Yin, Mother Mary, Isis, all of the mothers, the holy mothers, and divine goddesses and saints and angels are all high vibrational frequencies. And rose, the highest
Mm.
vibrational frequency for plant medicine, very high. So I
Yes.
I tapped into that, just kind of noticing it. Nobody's wearing rose. You make a grid. You make a grid with crystals and you bring in the energy of frankincense, for example. You say, I don't have any frankincense, but I'm going to bring in this energy of frankincense. Next thing you know, you can smell frankincense. And it wasn't there before. You didn't use frankincense in physical form, you brought in the energy of it. And so
Mm.
when you are initiated into these energies and you become connected to them, then you can call them in. You can ask them to be here, or you can just be open to them being here. And then you can say thank you. It's always a thank you. It's oh, isn't that cool? And then thank you.
And this is a very important, what you just said. You don't have to be in the garden. You simply invite the energy essence of that being in. And then you say thank you. Hugely important. And again, people think, well, I have to be in the garden, or I have to go, smell the flower in the. No, you can be standing in your bedroom and you're lying in bed or whatever, and you can say, I invite the essence of rose in. And then I say thank you. And watch how it appears. Watch how the scent, because this is one of the languages from the unseen, is scent. When it appears, we don't have to physically be with it.
Exactly.
Which speaks to our past loved ones and humans, pet form, human form. They don't have to physically be with us for us to invite them in and then say thank you.
That's right. And I love the word you chose, James, invite, because there is a difference between inviting or asking and saying, I want you to be here. Come on
Demanding,
in
right?
now.
Demanding.
Demanding. No.
We invite. We invite.
So there's this misappropriation in the hierarchy of, hey, if humans are the most powerful beings, we're not, by the way, no. But there's a way of thinking, a doctrine even, where people are higher than animals. People are better than crystals and plant medicine, and we're better than that. We're dominant over everything. I mean, it says it in the Bible, the corrupted version of it, that we have dominion over everything. No, 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 no. No, we are equal. And people who are watching this may not believe that, may not feel that, but I've come to a point where I feel it. And I feel that, wearing this crystal, I've asked for this, and it is attuned to my energy now. It is working with me because I have been initiated. Yes. I've asked, I've offered gratitude. There's this kind of process, and not, hey, I'm going to wear this so I can speak clearly today and know what I'm going to say. No,
right.
No, I'm not going to do
no,
that.
And we often speak, the unseen often, it's about, we're in reciprocity. We are in reciprocity with all, with everything. Seen, yes. Unseen, incarnate, discarnate, crystals, flowers, grass, tree, nature. So in essence, it's also, again, to be so mindful of the opportunity when we do say, I'm in reciprocity. We think of this in relationships or something, but in reciprocity. Well, how does the tree feel today? Now people will say, oh, Rosemary, woo, 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 woo. Well, you know what? Yes, go woo, woo, woo yourself all the way to the tree and then sit with it, or with the wind, or with the frankincense, or with the past loved one. Because it's powerful, it's vibrational, it's powerful energy when you recognize that you are in reciprocity with all. So what are you exchanging? What's your vibration?
And you're talking about a different way of being, James, because, and before we were on live, we were talking about being. Here we are in this three-dimensional world. We are being in three dimensions. We're noticing, we've got our skin and our, we're a physical being. And yes, we have our dreams. We have our moments of coincidences, synchronicities that, oh, isn't that cool? However, being in this 3D world, there's a huge awareness that can happen when you recognize what you just said, James, the wind, the water, the fire, the sun, and the mountains and the stars. You can be in this 3D world and recognize what's going on around you. And this brings us a little bit into our next topic, I think.
Yes, and it's recognizing the life force, because what you've just spoke to is everything is the life force. And so, of course, when we recognize that, yes, it brings us into, I believe, what you were leading to was wisdom, harmony, and alignment. Here we are. It all leads to
Yeah.
wisdom, harmony, and alignment.
Doesn't that feel good? Don't those words feel good if you say
Hmm.
wisdom? Ooh, yeah, wisdom, not smart, but
Right.
wisdom,
Wisdom.
harmony. Yes, harmony. Oh, just vibrating like the music that was in your introduction. I could feel it in my heart. That was a drum beat. That was a heartbeat to me. Yes,
Makes
and
me
alignment.
smile. Yes.
It does. If anybody here watches television, yeah, sometimes,
Maybe.
maybe. What are you watching? Are you watching thrillers that make your skin crawl and make you want to jump and you like that feeling? Ooh, okay, well, then you're in alignment with that. If you like the joyful other kinds of things, or maybe turn the TV off, you'd rather read or go for a hike or something, that's what you're in alignment with. So, just yeah, again, in noticing what experiences do you like to have? Do you want the
Yes.
fear inducing senses, I see this with other things that I call numbing: alcoholism, addictions, sugar is an addiction,
Right.
food is an addiction, all of these things that you are doing without conscious decision are addictions. And what are you addicted to? And then ask yourself, well, who's asking for that?
Mm.
Is it my soul asking for that? Or is it my higher self? Or is it the parasites in my liver asking for more sugar? That's a lower vibration, of course. It's going to influence your decisions.
Mm.
And so if you are noticing those addictions, then you can consciously say, oh, I wonder how it would feel if I came into alignment with the wisdom of tomatoes, lycopene in tomatoes, or fiber in apples, or, just come into alignment. You can even use a stimulation of an affirmation. I did this many years ago. I started to say to myself, vegetables are my favorite food. They weren't.
But
They
see,
weren't.
the mantra, the affirmation.
And so I said it to myself over and over again. That's when I discovered, oh, I really like peppers. I
Well,
really
you
like
were
this stuff.
retraining the brain, retraining the human
Yes.
to recognize, and it speaks this about addictions and so forth and sugars and all these different things. Again, what is it that we are not facing, that we are denying, to use the previous word, denial? What is it that we're not facing? Because all of these other things are the the salve, the mechanism by which we attempt to heal or satiate, or and yet of course it doesn't. It's going to maintain itself until you face it, until you address it.
hmm Or at least notice it. And
Right.
then and then as soon as you notice it, then you start coming into alignment of what you really want. And that brings us to that alignment of true wisdom, your innate wisdom, connecting to the divine, connecting to nature, connecting to a different aspect of your being that you hadn't let in before.
Absolutely, and it's reminding me the beautiful story that you shared with your mother at the beginning, at the top of the hour. And at one point, I had this beautiful, my baby, my chocolate lab, Abby, and towards later in life, a cancer diagnosis, technology.
Mm-hmm.
I
That was
have
fun.
no
Thank you so much.